Let me, I'm switching over here so I can see the agenda that I did such a good job of pulling up this agenda so I'd have it ready to go. Now I can't find it. Um, do, 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 do. Well, give me just a minute and I'll go find it again. Okay. So here we are, November 5th, 2020. It's 4:02 in the afternoon. Let me issue a welcome to all. Let's go ahead and hold on, every time there we go. Okay, now I've lost everything else.
Well, I can still hear you.
Well, that's good. I can't, somehow I have managed to lose the entire meeting. It's weird, this, okay. So now I'm viewing Alex's screen, is that right?
Yeah, do you see me scrolling?
Okay, good.
Yeah, do you see me scrolling?
Let me, I'm switching here so I can get everybody up in front of me. Let's go on down the list. So I'm going to go just in order of what I can see on my screen. So we'll just do a roll call here. Alex, do you want to, you can
Sure.
start.
Yeah, Alex Garrett, assistant principal.
Teresa?
Teresa Olson, I guess I'm still a parent. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to identify myself.
You're a board member.
Okay.
You're a board member.
A board member.
A board member par excellence.
Oh, thank you.
Jill?
Jill Lowe, principal.
And let's see. Frank, how are you doing, Frank?
Good. Frank Stewart with the Logan City School Board. I'll be rotating on our committee, so I look forward to working with you.
Great. It's wonderful to have you. Frank and I go back to when Frank was just in elementary school, I think.
Long ways.
And Lynn. Lynn, your microphone is muted. It's still muted. You're looking good, by the way. Let's go to Ryan, and then we'll come back to Lynn.
Ryan Marchant, business manager.
Great. Nice to see you, Ryan, although you're mostly in backlit profile.
Yeah, I'm in the shadow here. I'm running double duty today. My wife is out of town, so I'm trying to run kids around, and So I'm trying to do a board meeting too. So
Well, we're glad to
working
have
from
you.
home
Thank
right
you.
now.
Thank you very much.
Hey,
Lynn?
Lynn here. Lynn Hobbs, board member.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lynn. And now let's see, who else have we? I'm missing somebody. I don't
So
get it.
Rich, we have Kim. She is our board parent. Kim Penman.
Kim Penman.
Hi, Belly.
Wonderful. Welcome. Glad to have you. And let's see. Is that Jill and Alex? Have we gotten everybody? I'm
Yes.
trying to get a view here where I can see everybody all at once, but as soon as I do that, then I lose a lot of other things. So if I miss something, please let me know. Okay.
Yeah, I think we have everyone, Rich.
Okay, wonderful. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for participating. This is a fascinating way we do things in the world of global pandemics. We just want to start off by expressing appreciation personally to not only to all of you, but to the staff and the faculty leadership of Fast Forward Charter High School. You folks have done an amazing job in the face of impossible circumstances. And I'm grateful to you for what you've been able to do. We'll no doubt hear a lot more about this as time goes on this evening. Now, Jill, do you want to carry us, well, maybe even before we go to the first item of the agenda? You've all seen the agenda, I assume. Let's, if there is a motion to accept the agenda, then we can approve it or modify it, and we can get on with that business. Any changes needed to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda for November 5th, 2020 as it's presented.
Wonderful. Teresa, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Lynn. We have, there is a motion to accept the agenda and a second. Any questions pertaining to the motion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Jill, I believe the first item on the agenda is yours.
Sorry, she got bumped out. She's coming back right now.
Okay. I'm trying to manage my screen a little bit here too.
Are you back with us, Jill?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, my stuff's being weird. Did we talk about the, have we started the agenda? I'm sorry.
We're on item number 2.
Okay. So
Which-
I just wanted to introduce Kim Penman. She has 3 students at our school. She is going to be taking the parent board member spot. And I think we need to vote on her. Is that right, Rich?
I believe that is customary. So, Kim, would you like to tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've lived in Logan pretty much all my life. We have 4 teenagers at home now. 3 of them go to Fast Forward. I myself went to USU and got my bachelor's degree there. And right now I'm just watching my kids, and I do some holistic healing out of my house.
Wonderful. Any of you have any questions of Kim?
No.
No.
You realize the pay for your service is unusually high. No, maybe you haven't heard that. It doesn't come in the
I must have
form
missed that perk.
lots of tangible rewards, but many intangible.
They call those blessings in heaven.
There you go. There you
Take
go.
it.
Well, that's wonderful. So is there a motion to accept Kim Penman as a member of the board?
I will so move.
Thank you, Lynn. Second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Teresa. Any question? Those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Should there be any? Doesn't sound like you have any opposition at all, Kim. So you're a fully enfranchised member of the board with all of the privileges that are associated with this important responsibility. Privileges, not so many, but
Awesome.
duties, on the other hand, quite a few. Thank you very much. Okay,
You're welcome.
listen, I'm going to, every time I switch over to look at the agenda, I lose the meeting. So, but I'm going to do it again anyway. Ryan, I believe you are on for an update to our FY21 financial statements.
Yeah. Appreciate everybody being here. I just want to, before we get into the FY21, just a recap on FY20. It seems it has been a while since we've gotten together virtually or any way else. But I just want to let you know that we had a very successful financial year last fiscal year. You'll see here in just a minute that we really, Jill and Alex and the staff there, they worked really hard on getting that student number up, and it was, successful in doing that. And that made a huge difference for us. So, even if I was looking at it today, but, we came up 20 students, which to us is about $175,000 difference, which for a school our size makes a considerable difference. So you'll notice from our financial statements that our cash position has increased, our net income, we have a positive net assets, and our audit should be released the end of this month. And we'll review that, but I just want to let you know that we did have a good, successful year. So, and I know that there were a couple years where it was pretty lean, and it still will always be lean on some level, just because we operate with such, comparatively to some other districts and charter schools, we're pretty small. But it doesn't mean that we can't manage it right and do things well. So the team up there has done a good job of that. And so we did have a successful year. Having said that, and leading into our financial statements today, we've continued that strong trend of having a good student enrollment. Overall, the state enrollment's down. I can tell you with some of the other schools that I'm involved with, off as much as 10%. And we were off a little bit on our October 1st count, but we're actually above, currently today, we're above where we were October 1 last year. So our number has actually gone up. And I think that goes to say a lot about the plan that Jill and Alex came up with, how to protect students, a lot of the online stuff, smaller classrooms, smaller class sizes. So I think that really speaks to kids in the Valley too. And so we've been able to maintain that number, which is really good. So I just kind of wanted to bring you up to date on that. Does anybody have any questions about last year? Any of our, any questions from last year? Again, like I said, we'll be reviewing that information coming up in a board meeting shortly, but if you don't, then we can just go ahead and we'll start on, you should have the budget to actual report that was emailed to you. And it's from July of 20 of September through September of this year as well, which is FY21. So let's just review that. And then I will kind of go through, it's very similar. You've seen this before, just kind of the wording, the Word document that we have there that gives you a little bit of detail on that, and then the financial backup is behind it. Hopefully you've had a little bit of a chance to look at that, and you kind of have a better understanding of our financial situation now. But if you do have any questions at any time, please feel free to stop, and we'll answer those questions to the best of our ability. And if we don't have the answer, we'll find it for you and get back with you. So revenues for the first 3 months of this year were above our approved budget. Total actual revenues were $647,684 versus a budget of $610,933. So we had an excess of about $36,000. Included in total revenue, again, as we've talked about, were restricted SPED revenues of about $52,000, which we spend for those SPED students directly. We have a very good functioning special ed department. And Kathy, our special ed director, has been with the school for quite a long time now. She came over from the Logan School District, and she does a really good job. I think some of the staff underneath her changes occasionally, but we were able to replace them with good staff members as well. We have separate budgets that are attached here, so if you want to look at that as well, it's and we'll just touch on it briefly, but it's called 1205 is the account number, and then IDEA. Those are the two main buckets of special ed funding that we receive. We're also continuing with our CAPSA grant, and we have to spend those funds. We have an extra counselor at our school, which has been really helpful. So for a school of our size to have 2 counselors is really unique, 2 full-time counselors, and that was helpful through the CAPSA grant. And so we spend those funds on her salary, and then we're reimbursed. So we've been reimbursed about $22,000 for that this year. So far this year, we've received about $291,000 in K through 12 funding and about $149,000 in charter school local replacement. Now, local replacement, if you're not aware, that's the property tax portion of our funding that we receive. So schools levy that tax, they collect it, and then we're able to receive those funds for the students that we have that live within their boundaries. CTE funding, we have a good CTE program. So far, we've collected about $24,000, and we used to pay that for some equipment. We picked up some Apple computers, and we also use that to offset some of the salary of the CTE teachers. We also receive about $20,000 for our comp counseling program, and that goes to offset some of the expense that we have for our other counselor, Karen Christiansen. So that pays for a portion of her salary. School Land Trust, we received $41,000 in July. That's just paid to us annually, and we have to provide a plan. Jill obviously has a council that she runs that plan through, and then we spend those funds according to that plan, which we're paying for an additional teacher this year. We also participate in the National School Lunch Program. We haven't received a lot of funding there, just simply because kids are eating for free this year, which is great, right? So I don't know how long that's going to be ongoing, but we're glad to have that connection with the Logan School District, who provides our lunch as well there. And Jill, maybe Alex can talk to this a little bit too. This is the first year that we haven't charged any student fees, and so that we don't have a lot of student fee income, maybe just a little bit, but I think so far that's been really helpful for a lot of parents and students, especially for maybe if they're transferring in or out. It's a little easier, and we just want to make it really, and the board, to their credit, wants to make it as easy as possible for students to come to our school. So no student fee income there. But like I said, the reason we went there is, first reason was to make it easy to come to school. Second one, it wasn't real a material amount that we were getting anyway. So that's the main bulk of our funding for revenue so far. Let's go to expenses. So far the expenses, our total expenses so far for the first 3 months of this year are $487,000 versus a budget of expense of $460,000. So consequently, net income so far is about $159,000 versus a budget of $150,000. So variance of $9,000 there. It's good to have a good net income this time of year, because we know we're not super expense heavy the first 3 months for this year, but our expenses really start to pile on the end of the year when we have to make accruals for summer payroll and stuff like that. So we always try to have a fairly decent net income this time of year. So far, we've spent about 20% of our approved $2,372,306 budget. And we're approximately 25% of the way through the school year. So that just is the reason for that is simply, like I talked about earlier, is that a lot of our expenses hit us later on in the year. We've spent about $113,000 on instruction salaries versus a budget of $101,000. Employee benefits are $64,000 versus $55,000. So we're pretty much in line there. Some of that's just because pay raises that we obviously have every year. So we gave we gave a lot of pay raises this last year. We don't have a standard pay scale. And I don't know if the board's ever really wanted to look at that or go towards that, but in a way we kind of do, because we still have to be competitive with the Logan and the Cache district. And so we're all aware of that, and as you can imagine, our teachers are too. So we use that as a negotiation, but we don't have a firm set pay schedule that we use. But like I said, we try to be competitive there. Again, we talked about the salaries for the CAPSA counselor, and then also our regular salary there. Students' salaries for the principal and secretary were in line with our budget, and utilities were pretty close as well. So we have a pretty efficient building there for the most part. Some of the big capital expenses that we did this year were we put new flooring in our gym. So maybe Jill can talk about. Jill, do you just want to touch on that for just one brief second?
Yeah, sure. So we have had carpet in our gym for years and years and years, and we've obviously replaced it as needed, but we decided that our carpet was needing replaced, and we decided to put a hard floor in the gym so we could really use the gym for what we need to for our PE and health classes. So we replaced it with a nice hardwood floor. Well, I guess it's a laminate floor. It's been really nice. So
yeah, that cost us about $18,000 to do that, but it should have a life. How long's the lifespan on it, Jill?
Oh gads, I don't know.
Did they tell you? 10, 15
I was
years?
gonna say I need to talk to Karen, but I can't remember. But it's
Okay. Should be a
it's
while.
pretty long.
I don't think we'll have to do anything in there for a while. Our facility, for the most part, I mean, our roof needs some help. But for the most part, our facility is going on 18 years now, maybe 19. But as far as having a facility that's nice on the inside, if you've been to the school recently, you know that it's in good shape. They take care of it. So it's not like we have huge capital needs coming up for our facility, other than the roof could be fairly expensive, but we're just trying to maintain that as much as we can. But that would be about the only thing at this point. Our current mortgage balance is just a little over $2 million. And since 2007, we've paid off about $1 million in debt there, the facility principal. So cash at the end of September was $474,000. Cash at the end of August was $513,000. And then we also had some payroll liabilities of about $41,000. So not a lot in our balance sheet, because we work on a modified accrual where we run everything through the income statement. And then when we convert our books back to full accrual at the end of the year, that's kind of fettered out in the financial statement audit that we'll go over. But because we're in governmental accounting now, and all charter schools now are required to do FASB instead of GASB, which is basically just the governmental side of accounting. That's just why we do that. So, but we do run all of our payroll liabilities. You should know what those are on our balance sheets. So, and those are paid monthly. So as soon as our biggest payroll liabilities, as you can imagine, is every month we have to pay for, well, the big one is of course payroll taxes, FICA, Medicare. And then we also have state retirement that's on top of that. So those are the two big portions of that. Any questions on any of that?
No.
Okay, the next page is just kind of charts there that show cash balances, our accounts, and then kind of just a little graph there for our budget. So you can kind of see where our cash balances have been over the last year, 6 months, I guess. And we actually have about $80,000 or $90,000 in receivable that we need to receive from the State Office of Education for Title I and on IDEA funding. So you'll see a bump in our cash in the next couple months, back up to about the 600,000 level potentially. The next one down is October 1st count of FY19. This is what I was talking about earlier. We had 234 students in FY19. We had a good recruiting year in FY20. We got up to 260, and our October 1 count for this year was 251. But currently, as of today, we have 265 students. So they're doing really well. That number's pretty steady. So that's really good for a school our size. You can see the vast majority of our students are in the 11th and 12th grade. And it's always kind of been like that. And that's just because of, in my opinion, the mission of the school that we do is, you know, we help a lot of these kids that maybe are struggling a little bit and maybe looking for something that's a little bit alternative and different that they can get some help at school, or maybe they're just looking for something different. And then the last one, just you can see our total approved budget is $2.3 million essentially. Of that, we spent $487,000. We always come back to the board at the end of the year, and then we'll approve one last budget just to make sure that we haven't, we've approved all of our expenditures for the year, but as of right now, we feel pretty comfortable with that number. Behind that is all the backup, just the balance sheet. You can see exactly what we have on the balance sheet. You can see that USOE year-end receivable of $80,000. It's on there, and then our cash position, of course. And then behind there is just the budget to actual. You can see our budget's in one column and the actuals on the other side, and it breaks it down into each account that we have. Again, those are approved accounts from the USOE that we are required to use for our reporting purposes, and then they can combine it with other schools, of course. Behind that, you'll see individual, I call it class accounting. So like 1205 is SPED. That just basically shows our SPED, where that money's going. School trust lands, Title I, IDEA. There's a couple others on there as well, but we've put this on the web page as well, and of course you have a digital copy there if you ever want to look at any of that. But so far, I would say we're off to another pretty good school year, and like I said, I think that student enrollment's strong. I'm pleased to see that number. We operate pretty well at that number currently. So. Any questions?
No.
For those of you who are new to the board, you'll probably recognize how fortunate we are to have someone as capable as Ryan to keep our finances in line. So Ryan, just one question for you. Is there anything in your report that, that the board ought to be particularly aware of as we look forward to the coming weeks and months? Anything that we need to be especially vigilant, excuse me, or attentive to? Anything that we need to be looking at on the horizon?
No, I don't think one thing in particular, but this will kind of lead, that's a good question, into the next item that I have. I do think, and I think we ought to have some kind of, I think we do have an audit committee or some kind of a risk committee. And I think we ought to maybe have them meet a little more often than they have. I think we did start off at one time meeting, but I think that that's where we could feather out some of these other issues that we might have, and it gives them a little more internal control. So I think, you know, as a board, you know, the financials, we've been doing this long enough that we have a pretty good idea of where we should be this time of year, and you know, what our cash positions should be and stuff like that. But I think that, you know, the real risk that that I think we all run is just, you know, there could be areas of fraud that maybe we, and of course, you know, we're audited, and as you know, we've been doing this long enough. We've been audited. I hate to say just about every way, because as soon as I say that, I'll be surprised with the next one. But I think that that's maybe just more committee, and maybe just, and part of that's ours, is we just need to set those meetings up and make sure that we're holding those, even if it's like 15 or 20 minutes before a board meeting. If we have some of those and have a functioning committee that maybe we can talk about. But we do have fairly strong internal controls. And again, I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself because this is the next item on the agenda, and we can talk about that. But to your question, Rich, I think that that's maybe some areas we could look at.
Okay. If my memory serves, and Lynn will check me on this, but it seems to me that Lynn had accepted the invitation, or maybe you even stepped into the breach, Lynn, and said, hey, I'd like to chair that audit committee, but I don't know, is that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to be on that and do that. I think that's good. I think we ought to have a couple. I think I'm on the audit committee for the Logan as a member of the community. But on Logan's, we have 2 community members, 2 board members. Then it is our financial person and the superintendent, which would be Jill. And I think that's what we ought to try to do and get this thing going. I think it's a good thing. You know, we basically meet with Logan before the audits even begin. We meet with the auditors and go over any concerns that we have as a group. They kind of go over what they're doing. Then once they finish the audit before it's presented to the board, we have another audit committee meeting where they go over everything first. I think it's really advantageous to have that.
Yeah, I agree. And we should start that. I think, Rich, I do believe that we did start that at one time, and I don't know what the state of it is, but we probably ought to get it back together. And so, again, this
Ryan,
week, yeah.
Why don't you and I get together and we could get one planned?
Okay.
And let's
good.
get it set up for the year. I think it'd be a good thing.
Okay.
So I'm going to recommend, Lynn, that you and Ryan and perhaps Jill, if the 3 of you will make a recommendation to the board about the organization and structure of this committee, and how, if you need additional board participation, let us know, and we'll recruit additional help and support. But
all right.
if the 3 of you would make a plan, and then perhaps you could present that plan at our next board meeting.
Okay, that'd be good. I'm going to kind of be disabled for a bit. I'm getting a new knee tomorrow.
Okay.
And so give me at least
a few weeks. We'll give you
a couple weeks, and then we could, if you could come up and we could meet in Jill's office and let's go over that.
Perfect.
So does that knee, does it come from Amazon?
It's something I should have got done quite a while ago, and I put it off, and it's no longer being put off.
Well, my recommendation, make sure they get it in right so that you walk straight ahead instead of backward.
Well, that's a good idea. I'll have them put that in writing.
Wonderful.
Good luck. Good luck to you, Lynn.
Oh, thanks. It'll go well.
Absolutely. Good luck to you. Look,
Speedy recovery.
You may get the impression that being a member of the board suggests that you are at risk for some sort of physical challenge, the way things are going, but it isn't necessarily the case, just that we get a lot of people who are very active and very energetic.
Good luck, Lynn.
Thanks.
Yes.
Okay, Ryan, I believe you're next on the agenda. Is that right?
Yes, I am. And then this is a good segue into what we were just talking about. There is a fraud risk assessment that, unbeknownst to me, that we're supposed to fill out every year. And so I'm actually doing this. It's a requirement for our audit. And our auditor said we could still get it done before they issue our audit, which is the end of this month. So I've kind of gone through this. We just need to discuss it with the board. And we have a score here. And I got to admit, the score is not fantastic. And that's kind of why I think we had that conversation a minute ago. But you can see the total points earned out of, I think, a possible of 355 or something. We got about 275. And you can see the check marks that we went through. The first one there for 200 points is related to the basic separation of duties. And I think we do a pretty good job of separating our duties, or at least at one time. I don't know if you guys remember this, but 3 or 4 years ago, we went through an internal audit. And there was a lot that came out of that. And I think the biggest recommendation that they had for us is that we just need to, segregate a lot of our duties, because I was doing a lot of that. And it was overwhelming, I'll admit, but it's been really great for me too to, pass some of this stuff off. So for instance, now at Fast Forward, this has been helpful for me and them. But Kristen is up there, and she processes our payroll, or at least she doesn't process it, but she gets the information, sends it to us, right? She does the checks. I reconcile the bank account. She does the check requests and Jill signs them. And so we kind of have more separation of duties. So I think we actually scored pretty well on the second page here where it talks about the difference of, if someone's, who has control of the credit card and is it reconciled every month to all of our expenses, and then someone else pays that credit card. So we do. So if you ever wanted to come see one of our credit card statements, every single purchase on there would have a backup documentation to it with the receipt, and then it would also have Jill's signature on it for approval. So I think we've done pretty good with some segregations of duties for being a smaller organization. Now, are there better things we could do? Yeah, we could. But I think for the most part, we're doing pretty good on that. So that's why I marked, going back to the front page, if everybody has that, it's kind of this, I don't know if you can see it or not, but just the fraud risk. Because it was an attachment that was sent. And then it kind of talks about written policies that we have, and those are 5 points apiece. And so I checked a lot of those. We do not have anybody I'm not a licensed CPA, and we don't have anybody that's a license at this point with under any of those. So I don't know if we need to maybe have something or someone on our board that we could look at there. I do have obviously a bachelor's in accounting, so that's worth some points. We don't have our elected officials. I don't think we require this annually, but we need to have them annually commit to writing to abide by a statement of ethical behavior. This is it. Perfect. So that's number 4. And number 5, I don't think we did this, although maybe Rich, number 5 is have all of the board members completed the state auditor online training at least once in the last 4 years. Do you know? I don't know if we did that.
I don't think, in fact, when I looked at that, I thought that's probably something that we ought to attend to. Lynn,
Yeah.
do you have a different recollection?
I don't remember us having one.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
Sounds like it's something we better do.
Better do, yeah. Number 6, I think I might not get 40 hours of training. I mean, that's a week's worth of training. I probably don't, but it's, I have received a lot of training in budgeting and the financial accounting and stuff over the years. And so I felt comfortable enough to mark that. Does the entity have or promote a fraud hotline? We don't have a fraud hotline. We do promote if people have questions. The State Office of Education has a fraud hotline that's managed, so people can call that, I guess. So I didn't know what to put there, frankly.
Can we borrow, it seems for an operation our size, somewhat strange to have a separate hotline. Can we borrow or tie into, as you suggested, the state fraud hotline?
Yeah, we could. I'm sure we could. Yeah, it's right there. The Ed Office of Inspector General. I think it's, I don't know if that's it. Internal audit. That's the one that's like the third one down. Internal audit, Utah State Board of Education.
Well, why don't we adopt that and make that part of the school's policy and then advertise it throughout the school to all of the constituents and staff members and make sure that everybody's aware of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Number 8, does the entity have a formal internal audit function? I kind of look at that and the audit committee as maybe being the same thing.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think once we get our audit committee going, both of those will be checked. But there, like I said, there are some areas. So we scored 275, which is basically puts us in the moderate category, / high. So I'm not aware of any fraud. I can tell you that. I think you should rest assured as board members that I'm not saying there's not 100%. I can never say that without 100% clarity, but we've been audited enough in so many different ways. And I think you should rest assured that if there is fraud, it's not on a very big scale. And that's not to say employees couldn't be taking some things from us that maybe they shouldn't, but I'm not aware of any if there is. So that's just what we needed to talk about as a group. And I think some of those are good plans that we had. as far as, I think the audit committee's good, the hotline's good. Any other suggestions anyone might have?
No.
Okay.
Any,
Well, that's a point of discussion, right? I
any
think that's good.
formal action that's required on this?
No, that was just for discussion. I just needed to sign that, and I'll of course send it on to our auditors, and they can have it. And we've checked the box on that too. So.
And now, as part of the audit, each board member also receives an invitation to respond to a fraud questionnaire, don't they?
I don't know if everyone does, but I know that it's usually you, Rich, the board president. I don't know if they email every member.
Okay.
I've never had one since being on this.
I don't recall having one
Fast
either.
forward.
Well, I consider myself fortunate then to have had numerous opportunities to respond.
Answered for all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rich.
And I don't remember ever having reported any concerns or knowledge of any fraud. How about that?
Good.
Sounds
We're
good.
going to try and keep it that way.
Yes, I think that's great. Okay, let's see. Now, so I don't have Alex, can you tell me what's next on the agenda?
Yeah, next is Jill with a state minimum graduation requirement reduction.
Okay, Jill?
Thanks, Alex. So I would like to propose that we lower our graduation requirements this year to the state minimum of 24. Currently, we are at 26, and we have the 2 additional electives that that's the difference between us and the state minimum graduation requirements. With the COVID-19 struggles and the experiences that our students are facing and the ongoing struggle of the pandemic, I propose that we drop our graduation requirements to 24 from 26. Does anybody have questions?
And just,
Yeah.
are there implications we need to be aware of the proposal?
No, not that I'm aware of right now. Right now, our students are really struggling with, as part of the fallout from the pandemic, we have a lot of students struggling to balance school and home responsibilities, and parents are having students babysit and help take care of quarantine kids, and we're just seeing a lot of students really struggling this year for that reason and many other reasons associated with the pandemic. A lot of students have gone, I mean, we haven't got a huge number of kids online, but we do have about, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we've got about 30 to 35 kids online, and it's hard for them. And anyway, we're just kind of forecasting, what graduation time is going to look like, and seeing some of these students struggle. Right now, the electives are, some of our CTE classes or art classes. Some students do decide to take, USU classes, which students can still take all those classes if they really want to, but we would just not have it a requirement to graduate.
Jill, do you propose that to be permanent or just this year?
I don't know yet. We have talked as a team at the school about making it permanent. I don't know that I'm ready to do that. We have some pretty neat programs at our school, and we've actually talked about making required electives as part of our job preparation, our workforce preparation program for kids for after high school. Mm-hmm. So I think we would like to maybe evaluate this spring and see where we're at with that. But this year is all I'm proposing for right now.
All right.
I think that makes sense to consider that a proposal for this year and we revisit it in the future. Jill, are there any implications that we should be aware of from the perspective of the students themselves? Anything that they are likely to encounter in the future that would that we need to include and consider in making this decision?
I'm going to have Alex help me on that question, but I do feel like, I don't have all the answers. I don't know. I don't know what to expect with the ongoing pandemic as COVID cases rise. We're seeing kids, I don't want to use this term, but for lack of a better term, drop like flies as far as school attendance. I mean, as the COVID cases are rising, we're having, more and more students going online. We actually have a full-time Utah State tutor that is doing home visits along with our social worker to tutor these kids that are at home. We're reaching out to these kids, really trying to help them. So I can imagine there are going to be lots of different problems come up in the future. I don't know what all those are. I do see, just students getting their work done, the online learning for students. The home learning is hard for kids. And we're seeing, a lot of parents, and we've actually had quite a few parents that have said, yes, I need my kids home. They need to watch their siblings because they're quarantined, or so-and-so sick, or I'm sick and I can't take care of them. We actually only have one positive case of the virus in our school, which is fabulous in my opinion. We've done a pretty good job at keeping kids healthy and safe. Anyway, so I think sorry, Rich, I do. I think there'll be a lot of problems that we don't see right now. And I don't know what all those look like. And I don't know if the election results are going to change how schools look come January or not. I guess that's just me, thinking out loud, but the thought has crossed through my mind. So last spring we had a lot of students really struggle with the home learning switch over. Alex has been a rock star in we have every kid with a computer. We have a great outreach team. We have tried really hard to prepare for a potential shutdown, but we're still experiencing, some unknown effects of this. So
just to clarify, your proposal simply brings fast forward charter high schools graduation requirements in line with state requirements and guidelines. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's correct. And I know Logan Highs, well, at least when I was there a number of years ago, they were at 24. I think they still are at 24. Superintendent Dixon over the summer really encouraged superintendent and directors alike to look at reducing graduation requirements in an effort to, give every positive thing we can for our graduating seniors to help them get to that end goal of graduation. So
can I just add a little bit too? So I think one thing, if we look at our senior class this year, we're on course to have one of our biggest graduating classes if we can get all 96 to graduate. And when these seniors come into our school, they either meet with me, Jill, or Karen, and we discuss credits, see where they're at, develop a plan like day one when they come into the school. And in those meetings, we've had a lot of kids come to us that are pretty significantly credit deficient as a senior. We've seen a lot of kids come to us with 11, 12 credits, which is if you need 24 to graduate, and if you start at fast forward your senior year with 11 or 12, you can earn 20 to 21 credits. Sorry, you'll be at 20 or 21 after earning 9 credits for the school year. So you're still making up 4 to 3 credits, which is 6 to 8 classes on top of passing and attending all 18 that you're going to take throughout the school year. So the reduction to the 24 helps a lot in just making those kids that might not be successful in a traditional school district come to us and have that option, or really that option of graduation. And that, with being an at-risk school, and that's what we're here for, to help get kids that think they might not be able to graduate. I think the reduction to 24 is really going to help our juniors and seniors who come to us in really critical condition, and get them to that end goal of graduation.
Frank, as our liaison with Logan School District, do you want to weigh in on this?
Well, I have a meeting with the superintendent next week. I could just give him some feedback, but I believe the internal move from 26 to 24 is very appropriate under Jill's leadership.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from any of you regarding this proposal? Okay, I suppose if in keeping with our governing rules, this requires a formal motion and a vote. Is that right, Jill?
Yes.
I'm entertaining a motion. Anyone?
I'll make a motion to accept this change in the graduation requirement credits
Thank you, Teresa.
from
Second?
26 to 24.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Teresa and Kim, thank you very much. Any further discussion of this proposal?
No, I like Jill's idea to review this in the spring. I think that's a good thing to do.
Wonderful. Those in favor then of the motion, say aye or wave or give some indication.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jill, for your work on this. Let's see, Alex, are you next on the agenda?
I am. I get to talk about everyone's favorite, the dress code. So it's been, has everyone been able to review the dress code that was sent out in the board packet? It's been a long time coming that I've been kind of working on this. And I think it's important to preface that because the proposals can on the surface seem pretty drastic. But a lot of research has gone into this, as well as discussion with our faculty at Fast Forward in just making sure that it is something that really all stakeholders are going to be comfortable with and see the purpose behind kind of this transition to our, if accepted, the new student dress code. So really, this is modeled after Seattle Public School District's dress code. There's a couple school districts that have really kind of pioneered this more, for lack of a better word, liberal approach to student dress. And it's Oregon, Portland School District has a very similar dress code, and so does a lot of schools in California. Have begun adopting these, and it's more or less the exact same thing. And essentially, what it's doing is it's removing the ramifications for wearing dress that might be considered sexual, I guess is the best way. More or less, it's before we would dress code for showing midriffs, tank tops, like saggy pants, short skirts, these types of things. And unfortunately, too, a lot of dress codes and a lot of the research that I looked at points out that a lot of the dress codes are directed at young female students, even though young men do have things that are codable. More often than not, young women are the ones that are on the offend or are the offenders of the dress code. In years past, like dress coding was a daily thing that I would do, and it would take time out of class for that student. And lots of times too, students who I would dress code or Jill would dress code were students who weren't big attenders anyways. And so they'd finally show up to school in a dress that's not necessarily appropriate or matching what our dress code would be. And they would be removed, either sent home to change, come to my office and get a pair of sweats and have them go change in the restroom. And it would just delay this process and further their time away from the classroom. So again, the core values here, and this is the opening statement, really suggests that, you know, schools are responsible for assuring safety, and it's the parents and the students' responsibility to decide what clothing is appropriate for them. Now, there's still the restrictions with gang and drug paraphernalia. Those are the same, so it doesn't matter whether, you know, if a drug paraphernalia, like a marijuana leaf, is on your shirt, that's still dress codable. It's more or less just removing the other side of it. So the universal dress code, right? Tops, bottoms, and footwear must be worn at all times. The biggest, I have a whole bunch of FAQs from the school districts that have adopted these policies that they send to parents, because it really, the dress code should be a reflection of your student population and the community of the school. And I think at Fast Forward, you know, one of the things is like we accept every and all students, and our dress code, I don't think really mirrored that, I guess, is what I would interpret it as. And that's what's talked about in the core values up here, right? In a manner that expresses their individuality without fear of unnecessary discipline or body shaming. Students have the right to be treated equitably. Dress code enforcement will not create disparities. And I think in light of everything that happened this summer with the call for equality and just this big push, maybe not so much in our state, but we feel the implications and the ramifications of what's going on in the United States right now with everything. And yeah, while Black Lives Matter might not necessarily be dress code, we do have a lot of students that are non-binary gender. They don't follow the same gender rules as what would be described by society. And this dress code also helps kids who might not feel like they could express themselves at a traditional school come to Fast Forward and feel like they can be themselves. So again, that's the purpose behind this. Through here, the biggest thing is, or a big worry was, well, according to this, like kids could just show up in underwear, right? Like as long as like a girl had a bra and a bottom on, then they're good to go, or boys show up in their shorts. That's not true, right? Here it says intentionally show private parts, nipples, genitals, buttocks. Clothing must cover privates in opaque material. So a lot of the things that people, like our teachers, when we had this discussion, that was the concern. But once we read through the document fully, and they were kind of able to understand the reasoning behind it, and that their students, they're not going to be, we might get kids that come in and try and push the boundaries, but at the end of the day, we're still going to protect and make sure the school is a safe environment for all. And if they're not following these guidelines here, then they're still subject to the dress code. So it's not that we're getting rid of the dress code completely, it's just we're changing the scope. Is there any questions from the board if you were able to review it?
I reviewed it. I believe I understand the purpose behind it, and I agree.
Yeah, Frank?
Alex, I like some of the terminology you've used as far as not singling someone out in front of others, their classmates, or in a class, their teachers, that sort of thing. So it seems like the way you're going to handle individual cases or such as a pretty good guideline not to embarrass someone. How do you anticipate introducing this to your students, or kind of going through a week's introduction, if you will?
Well, yeah, that's a great question, because in discussions, we've contemplated whether just even addressing whether there has been a change and just letting things kind of naturally progress into the next school year. And this we don't have to implement for current school year. It's something we could do through next summer, create, and so we start the school year out with this rather than a mid-year change. But one of my biggest idea was like, well, if the kids, and we're going into winter too, so I think that's a big thing, is kids dress a lot more bundled up for the winter, for lack of a better term, just because of the weather outside. And so it's something that we haven't really discussed fully, but there's a whole bunch of different options that we could take with it.
And
I'm kind of thinking, if they didn't come up with this idea to do something bad, don't put it in their head. So if things are going well, let it go.
Kim, how do you feel about it as a parent?
I like being more inclusive, on the liberal side, but I do wonder, is that still going to make the more conservative kids feel safe? That word was used earlier on. I can think of one of my sons, and if a girl shows up in super short shorts, like, that makes him feel uncomfortable. It's so hard though, because you have like the whole gamut of kids at that school. So I don't know. That's a tough one. Did I cut out?
A little bit, but I think we were able to hear most of what you were saying. And I think part of that too, I think it is a little bit different, right? When we're in school, it's a setting that, when we were discussing this with our faculty, right? Like, in our head, school is a setting that needs to be a professional place, right? Like, we want kids to come and dress for success and be successful and carry themselves in a way that kind of uplifts them. But in talking to kids, I think school is that place where they still want to express themselves. A lot of our upper classmen have jobs, and we talked about this concern of, well, if we let them not have more or less any dress code, how's that going to translate into the workforce, right? And then when talking with kids, every kid that's got a job and requires a uniform dresses so they can keep that job and get paid. I think the biggest thing is when they see work and school as very separate, especially with, I'm not saying every kid at our school, but a lot of our kids don't see school as the place where they have to act and dress in this way that they would in the workplace. And we're trying to teach them that, but we also want to provide them that place where they can still express themselves. And to your point too, Kim, of the feeling uncomfortable and or more or less like a distraction, right? Or feeling uncomfortable with that girl that would come to class. It's also like, in the real world, like if you're working fast food or in a workplace where you're dealing with the general populace, like, you're going to have to interact with somebody like that. And it's working through, and how do you manage your own emotions as a young man when you see that, and working through being comfortable talking and interacting. It's a social issue as well. And I think we use a program called A Game. And I think implementing and working, like, we still want to encourage kids to dress their best selves. But we understand both sides of it. And I don't think that was really an answer, and I'm probably rambling at this point, but that's a little bit kind of my thoughts when you were talking, Kim.
So Alex, I think those thoughts are important thoughts, and I appreciate you sharing some of those ideas. Let me just weigh in on a couple of things. Policies are important, and clearly stated policies are critically important. but a clearly stated policy that is simply imposed is not likely to change anyone's behavior. I think it's really important for the students in the school and the staff members to not only understand the policy, but understand the rationale and to embrace the rationale as well. If they understand why this is being done and they are on board and notified well in advance of what the policy is, then there are no surprises. I think the problem that we oftentimes run into with dress codes is that the first time a student encounters the dress code is when there's a violation. And I think they need to be well prepared. And I appreciate the concept of using as part of the rationale the preparation for the workplace. There's an important concept or principle, it seems to me, in education that doesn't get as much attention as it should, and that is the concept of preparing everyone for the next environment. The idea is that we're not preparing you just to be successful at Fast Forward, we're preparing you to be successful in the next environment you find yourself in. And for most of these students, for many of them at least, employment is going to be the next environment. And for those who have a different kind of future trajectory, let's help them thoughtfully consider what might be required in that next experience and help them to get ready for it. If they see the staff and faculty and the leadership of the school as helping them to prepare for success in the future, and as long as they understand the role of the dress code in helping them to be successful in that next environment, I think we should get fewer problems, fewer in-your-face violations, so to speak. And wouldn't it be nice if the students began to police one another and to encourage that kind of respect for the school and for their colleagues? And I really believe that's in keeping with the attitude at Fast Forward, is we do these kinds of things to respect and honor one another. So I think the success of any policy is in the teaching and presentation and support of that policy, rather than just simply laying it on people and dictating it. Let's introduce it with a proper rationale and preparation and see if we can't generate a lot of support for it.
Awesome. Thanks, Rich.
So I guess this is also a proposal that requires formal action. Is that right, Alex?
I believe so. It will be, whatever changes we make would be reflected in the student handbook, as well as the policies displayed within the classroom. So when Jill and I talked, we felt it did need to come from the board as well, since it's just dealing with student discipline and things like that. So of that nature.
Well, this is a departure from previous policy, and it sounds like it may be a little different from the policies that have been adopted by some of the neighboring schools, and so there may be some issues that come as a result of differences in the contrasting policies. So I would hope that you would consider the possibility that we revisit this from time to time, if not every year, just to see if we're moving forward in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the suggestions that a lot of the school districts that adopted similar policies was to kind of create a student-led committee where there's students that participate in the, as well as parents, to come and participate in the discussion and when revising the document as well. So that's something we could look into the future as well, especially if there is differences between the schools and pushback or whatever it might be, it would be helpful to have that little group to talk with as well.
Yeah, I think that's critically important. Once again, if the students believe that the policies are designed to help them rather than to make it easier for the school administration, then we're likely to get broader and deeper support. So I'm eager to hear someone offer a motion to adopt this policy.
Rich, my question for Alex and Jill was, did they want us to adopt this immediately or wait until the spring and then make it forward into the new year?
I'll defer to Jill. I'm good with either way.
We are actually not going to be making any changes this year, as Alex kind of talked about earlier. This has kind of been in the works for, about a year now. We've talked with our teachers about it. So yeah, we are not looking to implement it right now. It would be next fall that would happen.
So that means the school, well, in the past, haven't you had a dress code, a paper that specifically had the dress code on it that they were supposed to read and sign?
Yeah, and that was given out in the student registration packet. Every new student that would come in, they'd get in the packet, there would be a description of what the dress code policy is.
Right. So they should read it, should agree and sign it and be aware of it.
And we also, Teresa, talk as we meet our new incoming students that come in throughout the year. Right. We review what the dress code policy is and answer questions on that. So.
Okay. That's good.
So it looks like for the 2022 school year is what we'd be looking towards.
Okay. Well, I guess we can have as much discussion on this as you would like. But even to further discuss it, seems to me we ought to at least have a motion, then we can discuss it further and vote.
I will make a motion to accept the changes in the dress code policy, as we've just finished discussing.
I appreciate that. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Frank. So it's been moved and seconded. Let's see, is there any further discussion on this motion?
No.
All right, and just to clarify, this is a policy that is being proposed for the coming school year, so things won't be changing during the current school year. Those in favor of the motion then to accept this proposed policy for the school's dress code, say aye or signify in some way.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, I think motion carries. Alex and Jill, move forward. Thank you very much. Let's see, where are we on the agenda?
It's my turn again. If you look at your sheet that says LEA specific licenses, there's been lots of licensing changes this summer for teachers, this spring and summer. And the state is asking us to have board approval for LEA specific licenses. So that basically means teachers that don't have a teaching license that are teaching in the classroom. We have 5 teachers. We've actually, well, and I'm sure every school in the state has experienced the shortage in teachers and finding qualified teachers and ones that fit into the program that they're applying for. But we currently have 5 teachers right now that are teaching in different areas that are working on their teacher licensing requirements. But I'm asking for board approval for 3 years for them to finalize their teaching licensure requirements. So they are Drake Fonua, Janice Smith, Coley Rollins, Kersey Hatton, and Suzanne Kirkham. Alex has got pulled up the areas that they're teaching in. And we just need board approval for those.
So just to clarify, these, you're requesting that we give them the equivalent, I guess, of a temporary license or authorization to teach in these areas, with the understanding that during this 3-year period of time, they are going to be qualifying for the authentic license. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. That's right.
Okay. Any anything else that you need to say, and Jill, on this matter?
No, I don't think so. We actually, there's 3 of the 5 that have their undergraduate degree. 2 of the teachers are finishing up their credentials for their degrees, basically. So 3 of them have college degrees. 2 of them are finishing them up in the next year and a half.
School districts have been issuing letters of authorization for years, so this is
right.
Nothing that is really unusual, is it?
Nope, you're right, Rich.
All right. Motion to approve this action. I'm putting the board members through a lot of work, but most of this involves only, I mean, these are formalities just so we can move forward with the discussion. So if someone is willing to make that motion and a second, then we can move forward with additional discussion if anything is needed.
I'll make a motion that we accept these recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Lynn.
I
And
second the
Frank,
motion.
Oh, so we've got Teresa and Frank both, I think, who are willing to offer a second. Is that correct?
Teresa, go ahead.
Okay, any further discussion on this item?
Rich, just a comment. I think this is in keeping with the trust level that we have for Jill and Alex, that obviously their encouragement and assistance along the way to help these teachers accomplish that is critical. And I think as a board, that's what we hope and expect and have a trust for them to do.
Yes, and they've always had such a high caliber of teachers there. So yes, I trust their choices.
I appreciate those comments, and embedded in those comments is an understanding of the role that the school administration is going to be playing in shepherding these folks through that process. I think both explicitly and by implication from your comments, and so I agree. And Jill and Alex, this is nothing new. you're committed to these folks and committed to the success of the school. So this is a big challenge, but nothing that you're surprised by or unaware of.
Right. It is quite a challenge because of all the changes that just happened. They're constantly changing licensing things, but they did a big overhaul this spring. So I'm still figuring out all the specifics, but we're working through it, and we have really great teachers that have had their background checks done and their educator ethics review done, and are well on their way to licensure.
You might consider, if you haven't done already, either inviting, connecting, or establishing some sort of mentor relationship with each one of these individuals, with someone who is already properly licensed and can help to support you in your effort to shepherd these folks through. But however you decide to do this, I think the board is supportive.
Yes, we do have, we actually have a mentoring program for our new teachers for the first 2 to 3 years, depending on their level of experience, where they are mentored with an educator that is at a has their professional educator's license.
Wonderful, that's great. Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Those in favor of authorizing these 5 individuals issuing some sort of letter of authorization in these specific areas of emphasis, indicate your approval by either saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, seems to be unanimous. Once again, thank you. Let's see, we have one final item, is that correct?
Oh yeah, and we're gonna make it fast. I kind of included some of my report in my earlier comments when discussing credit or graduation requirement changes. Lynn, did you have a question?
I need to leave, and so
Okay.
I'll get a hold of you, and you can tell me if there's anything else.
Good luck
okay?
tomorrow. Yes,
Thanks.
good luck tomorrow.
Lynn, we all offer our wishes for a successful operation. So
thanks.
Yes, we do.
Appreciate it.
If you need anybody to run errands for you while you're recovering, let me know.
All right, I might need grapes and a fan, Richard. I'll let you know. You know, you
Okay.
could fan me while you drop grapes. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm all over it.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Lynn. Okay, well, I did kind of give you an update about the COVID numbers at our school. We currently have only had one student, knock on wood, who was tested positive. We've had quite a few quarantined students and staff and faculty members. We've got a great team, as you guys well know, that have really helped us navigate through the substituting concerns and have reached out to students, you know, who are homebound. So we've got, as Ryan touched on earlier a little bit, we've got our enrollments at a great place. We've got students waiting to come in. We are allowing online only students to come in, but our classroom capacities are full right now. And we've got a great team of staff members helping out with those students. They're doing home learning and just working through the challenges, the many, many challenges that is bringing to the table. What else? I forgot my train of thought. I think we're doing pretty well rolling with the punches this year. We're taking a lot of extra safety precautions. We're having students sanitize their hands as they come in the facility and taking temperatures of every student and visitor that comes into the facility every day. Both our AM and our PM classes do that as they enter the building. We have one entry for the students that they have to come through, and then our front office manager, she takes care of all the visitors and students that come in late. We've also got Ivan who helps check in all the students every morning and at lunchtime for the new group of kids coming in. So we've got a fabulous faculty working their tails off right now to accommodate these kids. We just rolled over to Canvas from Google Classroom, which is quite the learning curve, but our teachers are getting it figured out and keeping grades updated. They're doing their darndest. They've still got a little bit of learning to do, but for what's been happening in the world, and we're doing a pretty good job. I'm pretty proud of the students that we have and the faculty at our school. So that's kind of my report right now. Is there any questions?
I have a comment, and that is I am both pleased and I was going to say amazed, but that suggests some sort of surprise, and there isn't any surprise here.
A surprise.
I'm thrilled to death with the administration and the entire operation at the school, how you've been able to manage under these difficult, challenging, and unprecedented circumstances. And I am in awe of you all and would like to express appreciation to you for the excellent work you've been doing.
Thanks, Rich. It's been quite an interesting year.
Well, get used to it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been thinking in my mind. We'd better just kind of get used to it. But anyway, I think that's all we've got. If nobody has any other questions, we appreciate your willingness to help out and serve on our board and meeting with us tonight.
Well, I'd like to once again express appreciation to Kim. Welcome to the board. Don't feel just because Teresa and Lynn have established a standard here, don't feel like every board meeting requires you to be under some sort of medical care or treatment. Stay healthy. Everything is fine. Welcome and thank you all.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Until next time.
We've officially ended the meeting. Keep us informed of anything that comes up we need to know about.